This series about what it means to be Israel is highly important. In order to come back to our Father and be what He desires us to be, it does require some cleansing and removing doctrines of filth from our influence. The videos that I have been doing in regards to being Israel are in regards to this goal of cleansing. We are removing the filth of the other nations and coming back to our Father in more purity and in truth. In the last topic, we dealt with separating from Christianity. And as expected, that was a difficult topic to get through. I mean, I get why. It is a topic that has been heavily influenced by our oppressors, and people feel like rejecting Christianity is rejecting their faith, and that's simply not the case. It is actually the opposite. In dealing with this subject, I realize that there is an overwhelming falsehood that lingers in the faith. Now, the biggest of them all in regards to Christianity is the hijacking of the covenant, making Christians feel that it is them that are the only ones in covenant with our Father, and they replace Israel. That by far is the biggest problem in regards to Christianity, because it literally rejects the actual covenant our Father made in order that people have what they want. Many people will find out that by following that doctrine, they were following a false religion. And the thing is that many people don't even recognize that they actually follow it, because it's not like the Christian church teaches it in this way. You don't hear the Christian church say that you replace Israel. It's just the doctrines and how they teach it, and they never teach about being Israel. But yeah, that's the major problem. Now, besides that major change that Christianity brought in, there is also another major problem because of the lawlessness that has been brought into the faith. People reject the laws and commands because they feel like the new covenant provided this change. You will hear people often say, if we were able to perfectly keep the laws, the statutes, and commands, we wouldn't have need of a savior because we would be able to perfectly do it all ourselves, but we can't. This is why we need a savior. People say things like that all the time, basically saying that we need a savior from having us to keep the Torah. There is basically this belief that our Father's ways are too hard, so basically He changed His covenant to make it easier for us, and that's why we have our Messiah. That's what people really think. That is the major doctrine of Christianity that many follow. Now, there were many people that did try to challenge me last week because they say that they don't follow that lawless doctrine, and they're not a part of the problem of Christianity, and therefore the charge against all of Christianity is not warranted. The funny thing is that people will say that their church doesn't teach that stuff, and then I'll ask them if their church celebrates Christmas and Easter, and then they go silent on me. But like I said earlier, the lawlessness of Christianity, while it is a problem, again, is not the biggest problem. This is not the main reason why I reject Christianity. I spoke on the main reason first. The biggest problem of Christianity is the hijacking of the covenant, which is why Christians feel the end times is all about them and not about our Father's promises to Israel. That is the major problem of Christianity. So while it is good that you don't accept lawlessness, if you don't recognize who our Father is in covenant with, then you still are not in the covenant. In recognizing the covenant, you would want to be Israel and not a Christian. Our Father is in covenant with Israel. He is not in covenant with Christians. And maybe instead of being defensive about that statement, really try to understand what it is I'm explaining here. But like I said, past that issue, one of the biggest problems is people understanding the doctrine of the new covenant and understanding our Messiah. Our ancestors did not understand Him when He came to them, and many of us don't understand Him today because of the falsehoods that have been taught by Christianity. In being Israel, it is very important that we understand our Messiah and our King. We must understand the new covenant, and before we go any further with understanding what it means to be Israel, it is important that we cover the new covenant and our belief in Messiah, Yahusha. So we're going to understand the covenants. Let's begin. Okay, so like I said, the major doctrine spread in this world basically supports that the reason for our Messiah is that we could not keep the Torah and the commands, and so our Father made a new covenant that was easier for us to keep. Let me tell you that if this is what you have ever been taught, or that's what you believe, please disregard this as a lie from the pit of hell. It is a lie. I need to say something that I thought might have been clear, but maybe it's not. I want you to understand this because, unfortunately, you might not have ever been warned of this before. Please know, There is an influence in this world that is desperately against you keeping the commands and the Torah. Satan is the one that will talk to you and discourage you from keeping the commands and from keeping the Torah. He is the one that will tell you things like, Father's ways are just too hard to keep, so he had to change it for us. I mean, if you really listen to those kind of words, they sound exactly like the serpent in the garden. That mindset is from Satan, and you should never, ever look at our Father's Torah in this way. This is how you should look at the Torah. An example you should follow is from King David. King David, he truly had a heart for Yah. As 1 Samuel chapter 13 verse 14 says about David, it says, he was a man after Yah's own heart. And I've said this before, it is my sincere personal desire to be known like that by Yahuwah. For him to feel this way about me is what my heart desires. I mean, imagine Yah feeling that you are a man or a woman after his own heart. So as I read about David, David was not a lawless man. So when people say that no one could keep the Torah, that's just not true. David loved Yah and loved Yah's Torah. Do you know what the longest chapter in the scriptures is? The longest chapter in the scriptures is Psalms chapter 119 with 176 verses. In this chapter, David praises the Torah continuously. In this is a plea to walk in his ways and his laws, to live in righteousness and keep his statutes. Let me give you some examples. Blessed are the undefiled in the way, who walk in the law of Yahuwah. Blessed are those who keep his testimonies, who seek him with the whole heart. They also do no iniquity. They walk in his ways. You have commanded us to keep your precepts diligently. Oh, that my ways were directed to keep your statutes, then I would not be ashamed. When I look into all your commandments, I will praise you with uprightness of heart. When I learn your righteous judgments, I will keep your statutes. Oh, do not forsake me utterly. That's Psalm chapter 119, verses 1 through 8. Here's another one. Deal bountifully with your servant, that I may live and keep your word. Open my eyes, that I may see wondrous things from your Torah. I am a stranger in the earth. Do not hide your commandments from me. My soul breaks with longing for your judgments at all times. You rebuke the proud, the cursed, who stray from your commandments. Remove me from reproach and contempt, for I have kept your testimonies. Princes also sit and speak against me, but your servant meditates on your statutes. Your testimonies also are my delight and my counselors. That's verses 17 through 24. Here's more. Let your mercies come also to me, O Yahuwah, your salvation according to your word. So shall I have an answer for him who reproaches me, for I trust in your word. And take not the word of truth utterly out of my mouth, for I have hoped in your ordinances. So shall I keep your Torah continually, forever and ever. And I walk at liberty, for I seek your precepts. I will speak of your testimonies also before kings, and will not be ashamed. And I will delight myself in your commandments, which I love. My hands also I will lift up to your commandments, which I love. And I will meditate on your statutes. Psalm chapter 119, verses 41 through 48. More. You have dealt well with your servant, O Yahuwah, according to your word. Teach me good judgment and knowledge, for I believe your commandments. Before I was afflicted, I went astray, but now I keep your word. You are good and do good. Teach me your statutes. The proud have forged a lie against me, but I will keep your precepts with my whole heart. Their heart is as fat as grease, but I delight in your Torah. It is good for me that I have been afflicted, that I may learn your statutes. The Torah of your mouth is better to me than thousands of coins of gold and silver. Psalms 119, 65 through 72. And listen, I could go on and on with this in this chapter here. This is how the whole chapter reads. The longest chapter in your Bible is a proclamation to the love of the Torah, a desire to follow all of Yah's commandments and statutes, to keep his Torah and not only keep it, but delight in it. Read this on your own. But I want you to really think about this. How is it that a man that was the king of Israel, who was described as a man after Yah's own heart, a man whom our Messiah descends from, why is it that he loves the Torah and delights in it, But some of you believe that the Torah is something that is bondage and something that should not be kept. For any of you that have been against me for talking about keeping the laws of the commands, how can any of you read Psalms chapter 119 and declare it to Yah and believe you are not being a hypocrite? Maybe you're not reading it. If you feel that Israel was not able to keep the Torah and therefore you must not follow it, it is because you have been falsely taught this and you have not truly learned this from a true biblical perspective. Why is the longest chapter in the Bible about a Torah that you all feel should not be followed or kept? Question of the day. So, my point is, please do not keep any doctrine that tells you there is a problem with this Torah, because it's just not true. There is no problem with this Torah. There's a problem with us and our hearts, and that's why we were chastised and punished. For those of us who have learned our lesson, we must come back to him and serve him as David did. David, he wasn't perfect. He made mistakes, and he paid for them. But he still was loved by Yah, and if we held him as our example, which then, check this, reflects back to our Messiah as son of David, we would know how we are to be. And so get this, to use Yahusha as an excuse for lawlessness is completely and utterly wrong, and it's not tolerated amongst Israel. That is a mindset of Gentiles who claim to know him but do not want to submit to him. If you know you're Israel, there is no tolerance for that foolishness and that lawlessness. Get it out of here. So the next question is, how does this fit with the new covenant? Because in Christianity, you were probably taught something different. So how does this all fit in now? So let's get into it. In order to understand the new covenant, let's go to what was actually prophesied. I've read this in multiple videos, I know, but it's an important foundation. Behold, the days are coming, says Yahuwah, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, my covenant which they broke, though I was a husband to them, says Yahuwah. But this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, says Yahuwah. I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts, and I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. No more shall every man teach his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahuwah, for they all shall know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them, says Yahuwah. For I will forgive their iniquity, and their sin I will remember no more. That's Jeremiah chapter 31, verses 31 through 34. And this is what is prophesied. This is the new covenant. And before we go any deeper, let me first deal with this point. In this verse, when it says, I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, the actual word used here is the Hebrew word chadash. In Hebrew, this word means to be new, renew, repair. In better translations, this verse actually reads, Behold, the days come, says Yahuwah, that I will cut a renewed covenant with the house of Yasharel and with the house of Yahudah. You see, when you actually understand the word that was actually used and what it actually means, it brings over a whole new meaning. When you understand that the covenant was renewed and it wasn't just new, it changes everything. You see, when something is new, it sounds like it's different than it was before. But renew is something completely different. We renew our leases, contracts, we do that all the time. And sometimes it has different terms. A new lease or a new contract, that could be something completely different. And that is precisely what we have been led to feel. But it's not new, it is renewed. And so as I communicate this, I will no longer say new covenant because it brings confusion. It is a renewed covenant. And with that understanding, we must understand what is different from the first covenant than with this renewed covenant. So we first must look at the first covenant that he made with Israel if we're going to understand the renewed one. So let's take it back a step. Let's learn about the covenant that he made with Israel when he took them out of Egypt. In the 3rd month, after the children of Israel had gone out of the land of Egypt, on the same day they came to the wilderness of Sinai, for they had departed from Rephidim, had come to the wilderness of Sinai, and camped in the wilderness. So Israel camped there before the mountain, And Moses went up to Elohim, and Yahuwah called to him from the mountain, saying, Thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, You have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be a special treasure to me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a kingdom, a priest, and a holy nation. These are the words which you shall speak to the children of Israel. So Moses came and called for the elders of the people, and laid before them all the words which Yahuwah commanded him. Then all the people answered together and said, All that Yahuwah has spoken, we will do. So Moses brought back the words of the people to Yahuwah. And Yahuwah said to Moses, Behold, I come to you in the thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with you, and believe you forever. So Moses told the words of the people to Yahuwah. Then Yahuwah said to Moses, Go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes, and let them be ready for the third day. For on the third day, Yahuwah will come down upon Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. You shall set bounds for the people all around, saying, Take heed to yourselves that you do not go up to the mountain or touch its base. Whoever touches the mountain shall surely be put to death. Not a hand shall touch him, but he shall surely be stoned or shot with an arrow. Whether man or beast, he shall not live. When the trumpet sounds long, they shall come near the mountain. So Moses went down from the mountain to the people and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said to the people, Be ready for the third day. Do not come near your wives. Then it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunderings and lightnings, and a thick cloud on the mountain. And the sound of the trumpet was very loud, so that all the people who were in the camp trembled. And Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet with Elohim, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Now Mount Sinai was completely in smoke, because Yahuwah descended upon it in fire. Its smoke ascended like the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain quaked greatly. And when the blast of the trumpet sounded long, it became louder and louder. Moses spoke, and Elohim answered by voice. Then Yahuwah came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain. And Yahuwah called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. And Yahuwah said to Moses, Go down and warn the people, lest they break through to gaze at Yahuwah, and many of them perish. And let the priests who come near Yahuwah consecrate themselves, lest Yahuwah break out against them. But Moses said to Yahuwah, The people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for you warned us, saying, Set bounds around the mountain and consecrate it. Then Yahuwah said to him, Away, get down, and then come up, you and Aaron with you. But do not let the priests and the people break through to come up to Yahuwah, lest he break out against them. So Moses went down to the people and spoke to them. This is found in Exodus chapter 19, verses 1 through 25. So he told Moses to gather the people, and he was now making a covenant with them, that if they followed him, they will be blessed. So with that understanding, let's see what happened next. And Elohim spoke all these words, saying, I am Yahuwah your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them, nor serve them. For I, Yahuwah your Elohim, am a jealous El, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing mercy to thousands, to those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of Yahuwah your Elohim in vain, for Yahuwah will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahuwah your Elohim. In it you shall do no work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days Yahuwah made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore Yahuwah blessed the seventh day and hallowed it. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long upon the land which Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house, You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, nor anything that is your neighbor's." Now all the people witnessed the thunderings, the lightning flashes, the sound of the trumpet, and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they trembled and stood afar off. Then they said to Moses, "You speak with us, and we will hear. But let not Elohim speak with us, lest we die." And Moses said to the people, "Do not fear, for Elohim has come to test you, that his fear may be before you, so that you may not sin." So the people stood afar off, but Moses drew near the thick darkness where Elohim was. Exodus chapter 20, verses 1 through 21. Hope you're following. What we just read there is what we know as the Ten Commandments. Let's keep going. Now he said to Moses, "Come up to Yahweh, you and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship from afar. And Moses alone shall come near Yahweh, but they shall not come near, nor shall the people go up with him." So Moses came and told the people all the words of Yahweh and all the judgments. And all the people answered with one voice and said, "All the words which Yahweh has said, we will do." And Moses wrote all the words of Yahweh. And he rose early in the morning and built an altar at the foot of the mountain, and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. Then he sent young men of the children of Israel, who offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen to Yahweh. And Moses took half the blood and put it in basins, and half the blood he sprinkled on the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant and read in the hearing of the people. And they said, "All that Yahweh has said we will do, and be obedient." And Moses took the blood, sprinkled it on the people, and said, "This is the blood of the new covenant which Yahweh has made with you according to all these words." Then Moses went up, also Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel. And they saw the Elohim of Israel. And there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone. And it was like the very heavens in its clarity. But on the nobles of the children of Israel he did not lay his hand. So they saw Elohim, and they ate and drank. Then Yahweh said to Moses, "Come up to me on the mountain and be there, and I will give you tablets of stone, and the law and commandments which I have written, that you may teach them." So Moses arose with his assistant Joshua, and Moses went up to the mountain of Elohim. And he said to the elders, "Wait here for us until we come back to you. Indeed, Aaron and Hur are with you. If any man has difficulty, let him go to them." Then Moses went up into the mountain, and a cloud covered the mountain. Now the glory of Yahweh rested on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And on the 7th day he called to Moses out of the midst of the cloud. The sight of the glory of Yahweh was like a consuming fire on the top of the mountain in the eyes of the children of Israel. So Moses went into the midst of the cloud and went up into the mountain, and Moses was on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. This is Exodus chapter 24, verses 9 through 18. And let's just stop right there. This right here is the first covenant that Yahweh made with Israel. This is what he commanded of them, and to consecrate it, Moses took the blood of the oxen, sprinkled it on them, and said, "This is the blood of the covenant." I want you to remember this. This is how he sealed the covenant. Now, this is really important. I don't want you to miss this. In this first covenant, how did Yahweh give them this covenant after he told them? Yes, he wrote them on tablets of stone, and this is how he gave them the covenant. Now, shortly after, Israel broke this covenant immediately and made a golden calf, and there was a problem, so much so that Moses broke the tablets. At that time, 3,000 people died that day. But Yahweh, it was important, so he remade the tablets and renewed the covenant. Let's read. And Yahweh said to Moses, "Cut 2 tablets of stone like the first ones, and I will write on these tablets the words that were on the first tablets, which you broke. So be ready in the morning, and come up in the morning to Mount Sinai, and present yourself to me there on the top of the mountain. And no man shall come up with you, and let no man be seen throughout all the mountain. Let neither flocks nor herds feed before the mountain." So he cut 2 tablets of stone like the first ones. Then Moses rose early in the morning and went up Mount Sinai, as Yahweh had commanded him. And he took in his hand the 2 tablets of stone. Now Yahweh descended in the cloud and stood with him there, and proclaimed the name of Yahweh. And Yahweh passed before him and proclaimed, "Yahweh, Yahuwah Elohim, merciful and gracious, long-suffering and abounding in goodness and truth, keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, by no means clearing the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and the children's children to the third and the fourth generation. So Moses made haste and bowed his head toward the earth and worshipped. Then he said, "If now I have found grace in your sight, O Adonai, let my Adonai, I pray, go among us, even though we are a stiff-necked people, and pardon our iniquity and our sin, and take us as your inheritance." And he said, "Behold, I make a covenant. Before all your people I will do marvels such as have not been done in all the earth, nor in any nation. And all the people among whom you are shall see the work of Yahuwah, for it is an awesome thing that I will do with you. Observe what I command you this day. Behold, I am driving out from before you the Amorite, and the Canaanite, and the Hittite, and the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite. Take heed to yourself, lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land where you are going, lest it be a snare in your midst. But you shall destroy their altars, break their sacred pillars, and cut down their wooden images. For you shall worship no other God. For Yahuwah, whose name is jealous, is a jealous El. Lest you make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they play the harlot with their gods, and make sacrifice to their gods, and one of them invites you, and you eat of his sacrifice, and you take of his daughters for your sons, and his daughters play the harlot with their gods, and make your sons play the harlot with their gods. You shall make no molded gods for yourselves. The feast of unleavened bread you shall keep. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, as I commanded you, in the appointed time of the month of Abib. For in the month of Abib you came out from Egypt. All that open the womb are mine, and every male firstborn among your livestock, whether ox or sheep. But the firstborn of a donkey you shall redeem with a lamb. And if you will not redeem him, then you shall break his neck. All the firstborn of your sons you shall redeem, and none shall appear before me empty-handed. 6 days you shall work, but on the 7th day you shall rest. In plowing time and in harvest you shall rest. And you shall observe the feast of weeks, of the first fruits of wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering at the year's end. 3 times in the year all your men shall appear before Yahuwah, Yahuwah Elohai of Israel. For I will cast out the nations before you, and enlarge your borders. Neither will any man covet your land, when you go up to appear before Yahuwah your Elohim 3 times in the year. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leaven, nor shall the sacrifice of the feast of the Passover be left until morning. The first of the first fruits of your land you shall bring to the house of Yahuwah your Elohim. You shall not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. Then Yahuwah said to Moses, "Write these words, for according to the tenor of these words, I have made a covenant with you and with Israel." So he was there with Yahuwah 40 days and 40 nights. He neither ate bread nor drank water. And he wrote on the tablets the words of the covenant, the 10 commandments. Now it was so, when Moses came down from Mount Sinai, and the 2 tablets of the testimony were in Moses' hand when he came down from the mountain, that Moses did not know that the skin of his face shone while he talked with him. So when Aaron and all the children of Israel saw Moses, behold, the skin of his face shone, and they were afraid to come near him. And Moses called to them, and Aaron and all the rulers of the congregation returned to him, and Moses talked with them. Afterward, all the children of Israel came near, and he gave them as commandments all that Yahuwah had spoken with him on Mount Sinai. And when Moses had finished speaking with them, he put a veil on his face. But whenever Moses went in before Yahuwah to speak with him, he would take the veil off until he came out. And he would come out and speak to the children of Israel, whatever he had been commanded. And whenever the children of Israel saw the face of Moses, that the skin of Moses' face shone, then Moses would put the veil on his face again until he went in to speak with them. That was Exodus chapter 34, verses 1 through 35. And what I'm reading here is just how the covenant was established. After this, they built the tabernacle and the sanctuary and the Ark of the Covenant, which is where they placed the 2 stone tablets. They did all of that according to Yahuwah's design and standards, and all of that was necessary for the priestly service of the Levites, including the altar for the burnt offerings. It says, according to all that Yahuwah had commanded Moses, So the children of Israel did all the work. Then Moses looked over all the work, and indeed they had done it, as Yahweh had commanded, just so they had done it. And Moses blessed them. Exodus chapter 39, verses 42 through 43. More. Then the cloud covered the tabernacle of meeting, and the glory of Yahweh filled the tabernacle. And Moses was not able to enter the tabernacle of meeting, because the cloud rested above it. And the glory of Yahweh filled the tabernacle. Whenever the cloud was taken up from above the tabernacle, the children of Israel will go onward in all their journeys. But if the cloud was not taken up, then they did not journey to the day that it was taken up. For the cloud of Yahweh was above the tabernacle by day, and fire was over it by night, in the sight of all of the house of Israel throughout all their journeys. That's Exodus chapter 40, verses 34 through 38. And get this is why we celebrate Sukkot. We celebrate when Yahweh tabernacled and dwelt amongst us. He dwelt amongst this people. Hallelujah. This is very important. Now, as I go over this covenant, the last thing I want to cover is the offerings, specifically the sin offering and the trespass offering. And that's in the book of Leviticus. He has different requirements depending on who sinned, depending on if it was the priest who sinned, the whole congregation of Israel, the ruler of the people, just the common people. He had different requirements. We will read the sin offering for the common people because that's who we are. It says, if any of the common people sins unintentionally by doing something against any of the commandments of Yahweh in anything which ought not to be done, and is guilty, or if his sin which he has committed comes to his knowledge, then he shall bring as his offering a kid of the goats, a female without blemish, for his sin which he has committed. And he shall lay his hand on the head of the sin offering, and kill the sin offering at the place of the burnt offering. Then the priest shall take some of its blood with his finger, put it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and pour all the remaining blood at the base of the altar. He shall remove all its fat, as fat is removed from the sacrifice of the peace offering. And the priest shall burn it on the altar for a sweet aroma to Yahweh. So the priest shall make atonement for him, and it shall be forgiven him. If he brings a lamb as his sin offering, he shall bring a female without blemish. Then he shall lay his hand on the head of the sin offering, and kill it as a sin offering at the place where they killed the burnt offering. The priest shall take some of the blood of the sin offering with his finger, put it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and pour all the remaining blood at the base of the altar. He shall remove all of its fat, as the fat of the lamb is removed from the sacrifice of the peace offering. Then the priest shall burn it on the altar, according to the offerings made by fire to Yahweh. So the priest shall make atonement for his sin that he has committed, and it shall be forgiven him. That's Leviticus chapter 4, verses 27 through 35. Next, we'll read about the trespass offering. If a person sins in hearing the utterance of an oath and is a witness, whether he has seen or known of the matter, if he does not tell it, he bears guilt. Or if a person touches any unclean thing, whether it is the carcass of an unclean beast, or the carcass of unclean livestock, or the carcass of unclean creeping things, and he is unaware of it, he also shall be unclean and guilty. Or if he touches human uncleanness, whatever uncleanness with which a man may be defiled, and he is unaware of it, when he realizes it, then he shall be guilty. Or if a person swears, speaking thoughtlessly with his lips to do evil or to do good, whatever it is that a man may pronounce by an oath, and he is unaware of it, when he realizes it, that he shall be guilty in all of these matters. And it shall be, when he is guilty in any of these matters, that he shall confess that he has sinned in that thing, and he shall bring his trespass offering to Yahweh for his sin which he has committed, a female from the flock, a lamb, or a kid of the goats, as a sin offering. So the priest shall make atonement for him concerning his sin. If he is not able to bring a lamb, then he shall bring to Yahweh for his trespass which he has committed 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering. And he shall bring them to the priest, who shall offer that which is for the sin offering first, and wring off its head from its neck, but shall not divide it completely. Then he shall sprinkle some of the blood of the sin offering on the side of the altar, and the rest of the blood shall be drained out at the base of the altar. It is a sin offering. And he shall offer the second as a burnt offering according to the prescribed manner. So the priest shall make atonement on his behalf for his sin which he has committed, and it shall be forgiven him. But if he is not able to bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, then he who sinned shall bring for his offering 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a sin offering. He shall put no oil on it, nor shall he put frankincense on it, for it is a sin offering. Then he shall bring it to the priest, and the priest shall take his handful of it as a memorial portion, and burn it on the altar according to the offerings made by fire to Yahweh. It is a sin offering. The priest shall make atonement for him for his sin that he has committed in any of these matters, and it shall be forgiven him. The rest shall be the priest as a grain offering. Leviticus chapter 5, verses 1 through 13. And after this was all understood, the priestly service of the Levites began. Now we're almost done here. I just want to cover the Levites. It came to pass on the 8th day that Moses called Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel. And he said to Aaron, "Take for yourself a young bull as a sin offering and a ram as a burnt offering without blemish, and offer them before Yahweh. And to the children of Israel you shall speak, saying, Take a kid of the goats as a sin offering, and a calf and a lamb, both of the first year without blemish, as a burnt offering. Also a bull and a ram as peace offerings to sacrifice before Yahweh, and a grain offering mixed with oil. For today Yahweh will appear to you." So they brought what Moses commanded before the tabernacle of meeting. And all the congregation drew near and stood before Yahweh. Then Moses said, "This is the thing which Yahweh commanded you to do, and the glory of Yahweh will appear to you." And Moses said to Aaron, "Go to the altar, offer your sin offering and your burnt offering, and make atonement for yourself and for the people. Offer the offering of the people and make atonement for them, as Yahweh commanded." Aaron therefore went to the altar and killed the calf of the sin offering, which was for himself. Then the sons of Aaron brought the blood to him, and he dipped his finger in the blood, put it on the horns of the altar, and poured the blood at the base of the altar. But the fat, the kidneys, and the fatty lobe from the liver of the sin offering he burned on the altar, as Yahweh had commanded Moses. The flesh and the hide he burned with fire outside the camp. And he killed the burnt offering, and Aaron's sons presented to him the blood, which he sprinkled all around on the altar. Then they presented the burnt offering to him with its pieces and head, and he burned them on the altar. And he washed the entrails and the legs and burned them with the burnt offering on the altar. Then he brought the people's offering and took the goat, which was the sin offering for the people, and killed it and offered it for sin, like the first one. And he brought the burnt offering and offered it according to the prescribed manner. Then he brought the grain offering, took a handful of it, and burnt it on the altar, beside the burnt sacrifice of the morning. He also killed the bull and the ram as sacrifices of peace offerings, which were for the people. And Aaron's sons presented to him the blood, which he sprinkled all around on the altar, and the fat from the bull and the ram, the fatty tail, what covers the entrails and the kidneys, and the fatty lobe attached to the liver, and they put the fat on the breast. Then he burned the fat on the altar, but the breast and the right thigh Aaron waved as a wave offering before Yahweh, as Moses had commanded. Then Aaron lifted his hand toward the people, blessed them, and came down from offering the sin offering, the burnt offering, and peace offerings. And Moses and Aaron went into the tabernacle of meeting and came out and blessed the people. Then the glory of Yahweh appeared to all the people, and fire came out from before Yahweh and consumed the burnt offering and the fat on the altar. And when all the people saw it, they shouted and fell on their faces. Leviticus chapter 9, verses 1 through 24. Last one. Then Yahweh spoke to Aaron, saying, "Do not drink wine or intoxicating drink, you, nor your sons with you, when you go into the tabernacle of meeting, lest you die. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, that you may distinguish between holy and unholy, and between unclean and clean, and that you may teach the children of Israel all the statutes which Yahweh had spoken to them by the hand of Moses." That's Leviticus chapter 10, verses 8 through 11. Okay, and this was the first covenant that Israel lived through and how it was established. This was the culture of Israel. The covenant consisted of commandments that he gave to them, which he wrote on stone. It also consisted of building of a tabernacle that he was able to dwell amongst them. Also, there was a priestly service through the Levites in which if they sinned unintentionally, there was a way to atone for it. And this is the first covenant that our Father Yahuwah gave our forefathers. The covenant made with our forefathers in the day that Yahuwah took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt. The covenant which they broke. This was the first covenant. And you see, this was made to be very thorough because it needed to be understood that if you don't understand the first covenant, you cannot understand the covenant that was renewed. And this is the real problem in Christianity. If you read all of this in the scriptures, now maybe it can make more sense to you, now that you can visualize it. This was the first covenant, and understanding it is crucial if you're going to understand the renewed covenant our Father made. So now that this is understood, we will move on to the renewed covenant and what exactly is made different. As you understand this more, you will find that there is a reason why this first covenant was not taught to you in these Christian churches. For all of you in Christianity, I want you to consider how long you might have been going to church and you have never heard your pastor break down the first covenant. Why do you think that is? But we're moving on. You are Israel, and it's important that you understand this first covenant. But listen, it's even more important to know that we are not under this covenant. And so it's even more important to understand the renewed covenant that we are in today. And in the next part, when we go into the renewed covenant, what was shared here, it will make a lot more sense. I pray this blesses you with more understanding and makes you feel more connected in your understanding of our Father. Please go back and read Exodus and Leviticus now and understand it better, now that it was visualized for you. We will now move on to the renewed covenant in the next video. Until then, always remember, being Israel means being a chosen, set-apart people, obedient to Yahuwah, keeping his laws, statutes, and commandments as he has always desired his children to do. If you are Israel, you are one who does the will of our Father. Walk in obedience and serve him with your whole heart and be blessed. Hallelujah. Praise Yah. Okay, thanks again for watching. If this has blessed you, please don't forget to like this and share this video with others. If you have not done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Yah willing, I upload every Friday. Also, please don't forget to follow this ministry on Facebook and Instagram, as well as on my website, truthunedited.com. As always, I really would like to thank all those who support this ministry. You know who you are. Your contribution has been an extreme blessing to this ministry, and I'm very thankful for you. You're the reason why I'm able to put this all together. Thank you for being a blessing. Okay, thanks again everyone for watching. I love you all.